In today's video, we will briefly look at a common tool used for summarizing numerical and categorical data known as a frequency table. The discussion today will focus on how a frequency table can be created to summarize single variable numerical data, and secondly, I will show how to use Rguroo to find the 5-number summary, the mean, and the standard deviation for numerical data that is presented as a frequency table. So let's take a look at some sample data. Suppose that we collected data from a random sample of cars in which we determined how many years old each car is. A table of the raw data is shown below, where each data value represents the age of a car in years. Now, taking a look at that data, you can see that it's pretty unordered. It's kind of tough to tell anything just from looking at all of those pieces of data. So the format's not really that useful. However, we can form what is known as a frequency table, which is a tabular representation of the data showing the count of each data value. And I've gone ahead and done that on the right-hand side. Notice that in the first column we have the variable, which is the age of the cars. And we have on the right-hand column what is known as the frequency, or the count of each of those numbers of years that are represented in the data. So for example, I look at the fourth row of the table and I see that for cars that are age 4 years old, there are 7 of those particular cars, and so on. There are a total of 30 cars that are in the entire data set as shown by the total at the bottom where I added up the frequencies that I found in my table. Now, another related table that I need to mention in passing before we go on to the Rguroo part is I can form what is known as a relative frequency table. What that means is I take a frequency table as shown on the left, and I'm going to take each frequency value and divide it by the total. So I've done that in the table on the right. And this gives me the percentage or fraction of the data values that have that particular age of cars in years. So for example, reading the fourth row of the table, I see that 7 out of 30 of the cars are age 4 years old, or approximately 2,333 ten-thousandths, written as a decimal, or we could also say approximately 23% of the 30 cars in my sample are 4 years old. So that's what relative frequency tables look like. If you add all of these relative frequencies up, the total of that should be 1. So now let's talk about how we would enter a frequency table into Rguroo and then use that information to find the 5-number summary, the mean, and the standard deviation for said frequency table. And we're going to use the frequency table that we just created for car ages. So I start by unchecking the checkbox for all the variables, and then I'm going to go ahead and check the boxes for variable 1 and variable 2. And at this point, I've now created a 2-column table. Coming over to variable 1 and clicking on the hamburger icon, I want to rename that one to ages. So we rename that variable to ages. Variable 2, we're going to rename to the word frequency. Now notice that as soon as I do that, that column is no longer a variable. Frequency is not considered a variable. It's just a count of the number of data values that we have for the car ages. And now we're going to go ahead and fill in our values that we had from the previous slides. So let me go ahead and get that going. Double click in here, get 1, 2, and then come over to the next one, 2, 5, and then 3 and 3, 4 and 7. Oop, made a mistake there. Let's make that a 7, 5, and 10, and then 6, and all I'm doing is I'm using the tab key to get to the next cell in the table. And there we have it. I now have my car ages frequency table typed in. And I want to save that as a data set. So I'm going to save that as car underscore ages data set. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and hit save as, and I can take a look now in my data and see that it is now available car ages data set. Okay, now let's go ahead and see how we would get the summary statistics for this frequency table of car age data. So I go over to functions, go to summary statistics, And again, I want to go ahead and find the 5-number summary. So that'll be the minimum, the quartiles, the median, the maximum, and I want the mean and the standard deviation. And I'm going to go ahead and include the count. So basically the default settings are going to be included in this particular case. So I go ahead and I click. Now, in the assignment, you might be asked, if you are asked to do this in Rguroo, they may ask you to give different summary statistics. Just check the ones that you're asked to do in the assignment that you'll do after this video. So I hit preview. Oh, hang on a minute. Data set is car ages. Numerical, my variable is ages. Now notice in this case we have frequencies. So we select frequency because we do have a frequency table that we are using. And then now I'm going to go ahead and hit preview. And I go ahead and look at all observations, and I can see that I have my 30 car data values, 30 number of data values, the minimum, first quartile, median, third quartile, the max, and the mean and the standard deviation are given to me in that case. And that's it. That's how we find summary statistics for a frequency table inside of Rguroo.